Hello and welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. So this is Cyrus, and we have a quick patron requested video that I want to put up. It concerns this article called "Where is the Proof of the Afterlife?" And the patron in question is basically asking me about this article, wanting me to analyze it, and I suppose see if this is a good argument to make when somebody is asking in a general way, where is the proof? How can you prove any of these things you're talking about? And if this is a good strategy. So the article comes out of likewolf.org and Lee and Annette Woofenden, Spiritual Insights for Everyday Life. It's a popular blog. Kind of looks like they might need maybe an updated site design, possibly, but it's a popular blog and a lot of good self-development articles on this website. So from a kind of normie perspective, is this a good way to present the topic of proving these subjects? So let's take a look at this, and I'll offer my 2 cents about it. Before we continue, a couple of notes. I wanted to first say a lot of new subscribers and people coming in from the Sonia Rinaldi interview that I did a couple nights ago. So that video is doing quite well and being shared quite a bit, and so it's great that people are being introduced to that work. That said, I probably have bags under my eyes. I have been dealing with a lot of problematic people in the comments, and sometimes even in the Facebook group, Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics on Facebook. And I just wanted to do a quick notice about how you can get banned from this channel or banned from the Facebook group. And on YouTube, you can ban people from visiting your channel by going to their profile and blocking them. So this is the same issue that I think literally everybody who runs communities across the internet deals with, which is people coming in with no filter and offering nothing except just negativity and BS, right? So like somebody is working hard to keep a community going, and then people from the sidelines come in, they can think of nothing better to do except to throw stones. Throwing stones at people personally, saying like, this guest is pathetic, or this guest is full of crap, or you're full of crap, or finding just ways to be of absolutely no benefit and no service at all to the community, and yet coming into that community and expecting to be given some kind of special treatment. Well, you're not going to get any. I'm just going to kick you out. And really, I mean, it's social skills 101. Okay, so I get it that some people are just, they just have a nasty personality, and they find the channel or they find the community by mistake or by accident, and then they just look at something for a few minutes and like, this sucks, and then they write what they think about it, and then they're never going to come back anyway. It's like, okay, but what's confusing to me is there's people who actually seem interested in joining the community, but they have nothing to offer except just pure negativity. So it's like, why do I want to keep you around? You see, in life, and to be successful in life, there's this reciprocity, and it's all about offering utility, offering value to people, not taking it away. Okay, so in a social situation, let's say that there's you're in some social setting, there's 4 people you want to go meet and hang out with. Do you go up to them and try to get value out of them? Like, hi, tell me a joke, tell me something funny, tell me something to entertain me. No, they will want to get far away from you because you're sucking value out of them. But what if you go up to them and then you are offering value by being interesting or enlightening or positive and helping inspire them in some way? Now you are providing value to them, and they're actually thinking, boy, where did this person come from? They're so lovely, and I hope they don't go away. And now you have very, very effortlessly, and well, maybe not effortlessly, but very smoothly been able to make those connections, make those friendships, and it works out very well. So this is kind of social skills 101. So people forget this on the internet, so they just come in attacking and trying to make fights, and yet expecting some kind of special treatment, as if I can't just remove you from the group or remove you from the channel. And there's a lot of other ways that this manifests. I mean, whether it's pseudo skepticism. So I mean, if you're going to say, for example, a guest is faking things or is a fraud, then you can't just make a lazy argument by saying this with no evidence and no proof. You need to actually do the research and present a case, because I will listen to skeptic arguments about any of these subjects if you do your research and you actually present something, not just like, anybody can Photoshop this, or this is all just made up, or it's just lucid dreams. If that's your argument, then you don't have an argument. This is called armchair criticism. You took a whole of 2 minutes to dismiss something that has maybe encompasses possibly years of research. So you understand that it's very insulting to come in with those kinds of pseudo skeptical arguments. You have to at least try, and then present your case. And then I would actually be interested in hearing about it. And then, of course, there's also just these kind of like weird personal attacks. And so as this channel grows, still a very small channel, but as it grows, I mean, I get these weird attacks from people who don't like what I have to say, and they take it very personally. And to this I say, what people say on the internet about things that don't affect you should not affect you, right? So if you see me saying something about an author you really like. So there are some authors that I have a lot of disagreements with, like Rob Schwartz, and I had the whole issue with Anthony Peake and a few of these guys. Maybe you're fans of these authors, but if I'm criticizing some of their ideas, it doesn't mean that I'm attacking you. If you feel like you are being personally attacked because of my opinions, then you have some kind of a problem. It's a classic kind of ego issue, right? Because of the ego means you're creating a false identity based upon something that's not you. Okay, so it's much the same way when somebody holds somebody up as a guru, and then they will rush to protect that guru at all costs from anybody attempting to criticize or insult the guru, right? So in certain New Age circles or certain religious circles, you'll see this a lot. There's, for example, those mega church preachers, and people just revere those guys. And if you say anything negative about them, then you will face the wrath of their super fans. Same with celebrities, right? I recently made a comment somewhere that I didn't think that the star of the new Star Wars films, that one girl who, she's not a very good actress, and I really don't like the new Star Wars films because I think it was miscast. And of course, I ended up getting like 500 comments of people saying, "Take it back. She's wonderful. How dare you say this about her? You're pathetic." Blah, blah, blah. I mean, if you're going to react this way about people who are not, they don't have, you don't even have any personal connection to, then that's just something to think about. All right, I'm done ranting. Let's go back to the subject of this video, and it's going to be this article. So, where is the proof of the afterlife? So this article is a response to this question. All good and fine, but where is the proof that there is life after we die? You contend there is suffering in the material world, but our spirit will go on to another world after this one. Where is the proof? Not enough to just believe blindly in something like communism or some other ism. I agree. You don't want to believe blindly or follow isms, even spiritual ism. That's why, despite me being pretty closely aligned to spiritualist thought, I find it kind of, I don't. It's a little bit of a turnoff to use that ism suffix to anything, because now we're going into an ideology, and ideologies not really, they don't have a good track record. So I don't think that there should be such a thing as afterlife-ism, but we can accept things based upon analysis and personal experiences, making an educated opinion, making an educated guess, and then adopting philosophies around that in hopefully a positive way that benefits our lives. And that's kind of what this is all about. Um, for me, I mean, I've had direct proof of life beyond the grave. So, I mean, it's not a controversy for me. I don't tell people I'm 100% sure of an afterlife because there's always like a 0.2% chance that all of reality is some big illusion created by robots who are just watching us pointing and laughing. I don't think that's the case, but you never know. I mean, maybe the flat earthers are right. I wouldn't say that flat earth is 100% wrong. I'd say it's 99.99999.8% wrong. But I wouldn't say it's 100% because life is weird and unpredictable, and it's not, good to have complete authority on something. You want to always have some kind of wiggle room, right? So this is the response. So there's kind of a little bit of a breakdown in response to this on a philosophical level. Number one, do you have a brain? So the author here, what's his name again? Lee. Lee says, "No, I'm not insulting you. This is a serious question. How do you know that you have a brain? Have you actually seen your brain? Have you heard, smelled, tasted, or touched your brain? If not, how do you know it exists? Most likely you know you have a brain because you were told so by your parents. In other words, even though you have probably never seen, heard, or smelled, tasted, or touched your brain, you believe that you have one because people you trust have told you so, and everyone you know believes that you have a brain. In other words, most likely all of your proof that you have a brain is that other people have told you so. Is that really proof? No. It's a reasonable belief based on what you've been taught and on what you have learned about the human body and how it works. I also happen to believe that you have a brain, but the fact of the matter is that you could not prove to me that you have. I don't know if this is the best argument. So if we're dealing with a skeptic of this subject, I mean, this is a philosophical argument, but it's also a mischaracterization, or you can almost say it's like a non sequitur, like it doesn't relate to the subject. I think I'm getting that terminology correct. I'm not sure. Because for one thing, if you have a headache, that you feel your brain. I suffer from tinnitus in this ear, especially ear ringing, and that's not actually caused by the by your eardrum. It's inside of your brain. It's like a signal error, accounting for missing hearing. So if you experience some hearing loss, like from heavy metal concerts, like in my case, then your brain substitutes that. So basically, oh yeah, also my head is not hollow feeling. I mean, you can feel your brain. There's content in here, and that's physical and tangible. Okay, so a much better analogy in this case would be radio waves, would be Wi-Fi signals, which also relates directly to the concept of other dimensions, other frequencies, and even how consciousness seems to work according to very smart theorists in this area, and people like Stuart Hameroff and other people in this area. There's actually another anesthesiologist who believes very firmly in an afterlife and also relates to the kind of signal analogy of consciousness. So I wouldn't use this analogy of a brain. I would use like a radio wave or something like this. Does the material world exist? It's not just that you wouldn't want to cut open your head to show me that you do indeed have a brain inside your skull. The problem is much bigger than that. You see, it's impossible for you to prove to me that the material world exists in the first place. I know what you're thinking. That's stupid. Everyone knows the material world exists. Your consciousness exists, but we can't be absolutely sure of the material world, to kind of summarize. So, I mean, we're looking at idealism, the argument that everything is consciousness, materiality is the illusion. And if a tree falls in the woods, how do we know it makes a sound if there's no consciousness to perceive it? Although with idealism, I would say that it would make a sound because the tree in that part of the forest is another element of your same consciousness that you are just not connected to. So it would still make a sound by the all-encompassing consciousness, or God, if you will. Does this argument work? Again, for a skeptic, I'm not so sure that this philosophical sort of philosophical exploration is going to convince anybody. Now, it's a lot of this stuff like, can you prove XYZ exists? And since you can't prove it exists, how can you prove the afterlife doesn't exist? You know, I've heard these arguments for a long time, like in theological discussions. And look, it's been a while since philosophy class, and these aren't bad arguments. It's just that if we're dealing with somebody who is a skeptic, we want to go more specific in terms of how it affects our reality, not just philosophical arguments of, can you prove this, can you not prove that, can you prove that there's not an afterlife, blah blah blah. We kind of have to go into more specifics. Unfortunately, this author does that. So we can scroll down to past the philosophical arguments to, now we're going to like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which matches with present-day literature of near-death experiences. That there is a long, throughout culture, throughout history, of documentation about what happens when we die, going out of the body, going into other worlds. And it's in the Egyptian Book of the Dead as well. In fact, I like the Egyptian book even better than the Tibetan book. But the point is, these ancient cultures have their books about life after death that match up to today's science. And next, evidence for the afterlife. So he cites Proof of Heaven by Eben Alexander. Good book. I like Proof of Heaven and Eben Alexander. Hope he comes on this show someday. But there's even better stuff than that. Is that Eben Alexander's stuff was heavily marketed, so more people know about this. You might not know about some of the more exotic material. And this author also mentions, specifically with near-death experiences. How can we know that the spiritual world exists? Well, obviously, if we experience the spiritual world for ourselves, we're likely to have a great deal of confidence that it exists. This is precisely what has happened for millions of people who have had near-death experiences. For a book with my own take on NDEs, see Death and Rebirth by Lee Woofenden. So I guess this guy has a book. In fact, we can even pull it up. Oh, I turned my Wi-Fi off. We'll pull it up anyway so we can give this guy a shout out. Not that this channel is big enough that's going to boost his book sales, but it's fun to pretend. Maybe someday this channel will have 100,000 subscribers and then it'll be more influential. Death and Rebirth by Lee Woofenden. What happens when we die? What difference does it make here and now? Our journey into the afterlife is no longer a mystery. Thousands of people who have nearly died, not just thousands, my friend, millions, who have experienced its early stages and come back to tell us about it. And in his spiritual classic, Heaven and Hell, really cool. He's citing Emanuel Swedenborg, the original out-of-body explorer, the original astral projector, provided a detailed account of what happens to us after death. And I really do think it's almost like if you have no other source of information and you're willing to swallow the idea the afterlife is real, Swedenborg's material is some of the best, and even it matches up to the present day very well. Swedenborg talks about dealing with skeptics, and he's literally saying some of the same things that I was ranting about at the beginning of this video. And this is the 1700s, basically saying that the people who don't believe will never believe, no matter how hard you present objective evidence. And somebody posted this on the Afterlife Topics forum, so I can't quote the page number of which Swedenborg book it was in, but it's just funny how much things line up from 300 years ago compared to today. So anyway, looks like this fella is citing Swedenborg, so that's really cool. That's probably a good book. Maybe check this out. For readers who have had near-death experiences, my whole argument about the existence or non-existence of the spiritual world probably seems rather unnecessary. You're right. If not just a little bit silly, because they know that the spiritual world exists because they have experienced it for themselves. So again, I agree with all this, and he's citing NDEs as the primary focus of objective evidence. So here's, I guess, just how I would do things a bit differently if a skeptic. Well, first of all, I get these kinds of questions all the time, and I usually don't have the ability to answer them. because it's not really my job to make skeptics feel better. I mean, they're on their own path. If they can buy like my first book, Understanding Life After Death, if they want the analysis about how this all works from a objective scientific standpoint. But if they don't want to go through the time of reading a book like this, in fact, let me even I have a copy of my book right here, so let me just grab it real quick. My first book, Understanding Life After Death. So if a skeptic doesn't want to take the time to do the research, it's not my job to try to make them feel better by paraphrasing, this 300 plus page book I wrote. They need to actually do the research. And this is what I talked about at the beginning of this video about armchair skepticism, right? And that's kind of what's going on in the question proposed at the beginning of this article is blah, 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 how can you prove it's real? Well, if somebody had actually done the research, or for example read my book or a book similar to this one, then they wouldn't be asking the question, because I mean, if you study the objective evidence in its entirety, and that can again just include like Victor Zamet's book, A Lawyer Presents a Case for the Afterlife, again my book. There's a new book out called The Afterlife something something that's very popular. There's a book called Don't Worry, That's Probably an Afterlife. There's a book Surviving Death by Leslie Kean. Like if you delve into these areas and you're still a skeptic, it means that you've created a pretty darn good argument against an afterlife. And so you wouldn't even be asking this question of how do you prove it, because you've already looked at the evidence and made an opinion. So again, it comes down to this kind of lazy armchair skepticism. So I don't usually bother wasting my time with armchair skepticism, because for one thing, you're not going to convince them, and waste my time, waste my mental power. I end up kind of being in an iffy mood the rest of the day, because I just had to deal with this kind of like questioning that happens so frequently that I get a bit sick of it. But if I really had to, or if it was like a debate match, or if it was on a podcast and I was addressing like where's the proof, I would be bringing up a lot more than just NDEs. So there's a little bit of this NDE centrism in culture, because NDEs get the most exposure. NDEs can also be very incorrect sources of information. Like we see NDEs where it's all about Satan and fire and brimstone, and these are literally people dying and having experiences in these kind of fake heavens and fake hells built upon their belief systems. And we know that people in what we call astral conditions go into these mimics of places that they build with a community of other people, so that they can live that lifestyle of a big churchy like heaven with a god on a throne with a beard, and who knows who or what that god really is. You can see my video a couple of videos back about archons for more about that concept. But people all the time have NDEs that are very questionable. So in my opinion, we cannot use just NDEs as the evidence of the afterlife. We should instead go, for example, to Victor Zamet's website, A Lawyer Presents the Case for the Afterlife. And let me just I'll just bring that up right now. Victor Zamet. Here we go. So yeah, A Lawyer Presents the Case for the evidence for the afterlife, and this is a free book. So in case you don't want to spend $3 on a Kindle book, if you're that hard up for cash and you just want to read something free that's out there that really gets to the heart of many of these subjects, then this is the book that I first read when I was like 13, 14 years old. Victor's been doing this for this long. So in response to the question, in response to this article, it would be much more productive to go to a place like this, click on Afterlife Evidence, and instead of just referencing NDEs, we can go into the subjects of remote viewing, consciousness outside the body, not just NDEs, but out-of-body experiences, end-of-life experiences or deathbed visions, after-death contacts, induced after-death contacts, guided after-death connections, psychomantiums, EVP, EVP ITC areas like Sonia Rinaldi's interview. You can check the video before this one. Mental mediums, writing mediums, painting mediums. I'm telling you, if you haven't seen some of the painting mediums, like your mind is going to be blown. I literally recommend to just check this link right here, painting mediums, and watch some of these guys on YouTube who are doing something absolutely paranormal. Imagine creating a perfect like a beautiful like Van Gogh style painting using your toes under your table while your right hand is doing a painting and your left hand is doing a painting, and you're blindfolded in trance, unconscious. People can do that. And you're going to try to argue with me and say this isn't being done through spirit. Well, then you, my friend, you cannot be helped. The cross correspondences, cross-corresponding mediumship communication. Medium in Europe verifies what a medium in America is doing before the days of the internet. Of course, the physical mediums, the skull experiments, transfiguration mediumship, materialization mediumship, spirit doctors. Imagine going to a seance and having a wisdom tooth taken out in a perfect, clean, precise fashion, better than your dentist could, without having to use general anesthesia. Or well, for me, actually, I had my wisdom teeth taken out with local anesthesia because I'm a tough, I eat broken glass for dinner. I'm a tough guy, so I did it with local. But imagine not needing any Novocaine or any kind of anesthesia, and then having a tooth pulled. I've heard about these types of things. That's in the subject of spirit. Spirit medical procedures, which I don't recommend doing because who knows who or what you may end up, getting involved with. It has to be pretty reputable, in my opinion. But that's still an area of evidence. You have poltergeists and dreams of past lives, past life regressions, interlife regressions, pre-birth memories, scientific areas, quantum physics. Look, the point is that you have all of these areas, and all of it is consistent, points in one direction, points to the subject of an afterlife. So finally, that's what I would reference in response to this question. I wouldn't only reference NDEs. I would go into the big picture and use all of this in regards to answering where is the proof of an afterlife. Put all this together, that's your proof. Objective, scientific, verifiable, real life stuff, not just philosophy and not just one subject, many subjects, countless researchers, history dating back hundreds of years of research. It's just not well known because our society can't really handle it. Well, hit subscribe if you think this message is important, if you think other people can learn from this, and share the video or get involved. You can pick up a copy of books like Understanding Life After Death for more information. You can also get involved in the Facebook group or become a patron, support this work with me one-on-one consultations. I help talk about obtaining out-of-body states to people who have had consultations with me. I think that they've really been helped. If you have had a consultation with me, leave a comment down below about how it helped you. And I might be able to help you as well when it comes to obtaining out-of-body states or communications with deceased loved ones. Something I do on an almost weekly basis is communications with my parents who have passed on. And it helps keep this work going so I can do things like buy new microphones that break, buy new web cameras that break, eat food because apparently I have to eat to keep my physical body going, which is a huge pain in the butt. So all that helps keep this whole thing going. And all right, well, that's it. Thanks for watching, and a lot more content coming up, a lot more videos coming up. I'll see you guys soon.